The Incredibles 2. I forgot the V. That was really funny. This is so awful. Okay, but we're rolling with it.
Okay, let's first really quickly say like our opinions on this film. Or, like
the short film?
No, of The Incredibles, because people are going to want to.
We have.
I gave it 4.5.
You gave Coco 4.5 too.
Okay, I gave it 4.5. I really enjoyed the experience, but there were a lot of things that annoy me with this film. But I sort of have a lot of thoughts about how Pixar and the direction that Pixar is going in the direction. And I've had a lot of realizations of this because I'm watching this, and I'll talk about that.
Yeah, I have this at a 2-star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if there's one film that makes me a Pixar cynic, this is the one.
And I completely understand.
Yeah, it has not been this apparent.
Completely understand.
And there were, again, it's not terrible. There were things that I enjoyed, and I never found the experience to be grueling. I thought it was a pretty easy watch. Mm-hmm. There was nothing that made me want to walk out of the theater or made the film slow. It had a good pacing, and even though I had a lot of maybe like not even nitpicks, a lot of complaints about it, the experience was nice.
Yeah. If I did not grow up with The Incredibles, I would give the same.
Oh yeah, context. I watched the first one in like 10 years for the first time a week and a half ago.
Yeah, if I didn't
and it blew me away.
Yeah, if I didn't have reason to connect with these characters, like because it is a nostalgic thing for me, then I would have the complete same reaction.
Really?
Yeah, and we can talk about that.
Right. For me, it's because I don't have the nostalgia, because I forgot what the specifics.
Yeah, like I owned this on DVD and I watched it a bunch.
Right.
Like I even watched the director's commentary. Like
there you go.
And like all the bonus features.
Yeah.
Like I know the first film front and back.
Yeah, for me, it was because the watch that I did was so refreshing, and it immediately bumped. This is like in my top 30 to 40s of all time now, and partially because I don't have the nostalgic attachment, the way this film doesn't do the first one justice made me mad.
It does not do it justice at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't want to talk about it yet, because I do want to talk about the short film.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who like this more than the first, which is crazy to me.
I can understand that, and that makes me really sad.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I can understand that too.
Yeah, so let's talk about the short film.
So the short film is Bao, and I'm gonna, because I have a Chinese background.
I have a lot of weird thoughts.
Let me tell you something about the
you
title.
Go first.
There's something about the title that's very interesting, because in China, Chinese, there are inflections. This is kind of a double, I don't want to say double entendre. There's double meaning in writing it in pinyin, bao, without inflection. So if you say it bao, it means baby or precious one. If you say it bao, it means steamed bun.
That's really clever.
Yeah. Which defines the film completely.
Yeah, it defines it perfectly.
But at the same time, it doesn't work. We should just go straight into spoilers for this short.
We'll go straight into spoilers. Yeah. Okay. So, do you want to go first or should I?
Let's go. I want to go first.
Okay, go. All right.
So, my experience with this short was really interesting. I feel like it started off, you see the wife who's like stay at home, the father neglects her, or the husband, and then I started to sympathize with her, or even empathize with her, not empathize, sympathize with her on a deep level, because I've seen this happen. And a lot of the background stuff was really spot on, from the way she makes the food. That's like Isle of Dogs level of food making. That's a slight spoiler, but there's a food making scene in Isle of Dogs that's really, really good. And then you see the grocery market that looks exactly like spot on from the Chinese thing. And I love the fact that they're taking, they got a Chinese director to direct this. I mean, I love the fact that that happened. And then, of course, the bao comes out, the steamed bun, and it becomes like a child. And I was rolling along with it. I was like, okay, so this is like a baby, but I think this is still metaphorical. I thought the bao at first was a metaphor for the neglect that the husband had on her, and that this is her this is her anger and her loneliness for some reason. I didn't get the connection that this was actually like a real child. I thought this was just a metaphor of her like cultivating and doing something with her spare time. And I was rolling along with it until he befriended the gangster black rapper dudes and he took home a white blonde girlfriend. Boyfriend.
Yeah, he's gay.
Yeah, which would have been an interesting one.
Yeah.
But that, for me to be so absorbed in the Chinese culture, I thought that was a terrible decision. I thought it took me out of it, and it was just totally not necessary. It was just something that it felt like the director needed just to connect with the white and black audiences in the audience. The audience is in the audience. The audience is in the seats. And to me, I would have much preferred if it were just a more just through and through Chinese thing. And that it also didn't work because it was almost laughable in the way those stereotypes are portrayed. At the end, the ending of the short, which is very, very touching. The ending by itself is very touching. They eat the dessert bun on, while leaning towards each other. It almost got me. But because I had that disconnect in the middle, not only did the metaphor not work when it's revealed that she actually has a child, but it was not enough to make me emotionally just enthused about it. It actually reminded me of Lion, which is a film I despise.
Interesting.
That's another film where the ending is totally absorbing, and it's so emotional. But everything in the middle is just the worst biopic trope you can ever have. And so Lion is one of the worst things I've ever seen. I actually have it at 0.5 star, but we don't need to get into that right now. Mark.
Okay. Here's my experience watching this. Starts off, this is very traditional, and I like how Chinese this is, and it feels very genuine and heartfelt. Then the fucking dumpling turned and started crying. I was like, what dumb shit is this? What are they doing? And it started growing older, and I actually was completely disconnected. Like,
really?
This is just cutesy for cutesy's sake. I am not into this at all. Pixar, I'm sorry, you don't have me at all here. But then he turned into a teenager. Yeah, and then it became clear, this is about I actually thought it was a male character, the protagonist. I didn't catch on that it was a female character. Yeah, so it didn't occur to me until just now that it was a mother.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a way they animate it.
They make the character sort of gender neutral.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's maybe even up to interpretation. Well, no, they make it very clear because there's picture frames on the front.
Yeah, but it's a specific look that the director nails to a T. Both the dad and the mom.
Okay.
It's a specific androgynous type of Asian middle-aged look.
Okay.
That I immediately, when I saw it, I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing.
Interesting. Okay,
the portrayal is spot
on. This character actually looked like a younger, late 20s teen.
Really?
I actually interpreted it as he was the son of the older man. Yeah, that's how I saw it.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's just. I wonder how many other more people who are not as clued into those cues, Chinese cues, also got a little bit confused by the gender, like I did.
Maybe.
Because because I was confused about the gender, it made the ending very complicated. Because I didn't understand that. I had to question, what's the relationship to this person with this new character who is now the metaphor?
Right.
Is it a brother-sister thing? Because I didn't understand that it was an older character. Is it a brother-sister thing? Is it they had a relationship and they're gay or something? Or I didn't really understand that. So instead, it seemed much more metaphorical, much more interesting than I think it really was. Now that I really think about
because you're still figuring out the logistics of it by the end of it.
So I mean that made the ending so anyway, to go on with my experience, the dumpling as a teenager and rejecting the protagonist, and the protagonist is having to deal with that. I now buy into the film because it's not just being cute for cutesy's sake. It's not Paperman.
Right.
If you've seen that.
It's
not
overrated.
It's not just I mean, that was a nice short for what it was.
Overrated.
It's
nice.
It's not just we're gonna make you feel good about two people getting together.
Yeah.
It has more. It's more complicated than just trying to make you feel good about a cute thing, right? But then the switch of I'm gonna eat you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I actually was like, holy crap! that's really fucking weird. It got me in a weird way.
Okay, here's the thing though.
Yeah.
I was spoiled that.
Oh, really?
From some Letterboxd reviews.
I see.
So I didn't know how to process that.
Yeah, and metaphorically, like, I'm like, that's actually kind of sweet, because, like, a mother who really, like,
It's very protective.
and, like, has a lot of feelings about their child leaving home. Like, the act of a mother swallowing their son. Like, if you think about it, like, artistically,
like the womb.
metaphorically, there's like a lot of it, like, there's a womb connotation. There's like
shit.
You were of my body, now you're like, I want you to be back in my body. There's a lot of really interesting things going on, which made me realize, wow, this film's really smart in its metaphor.
Oh man, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. And then when the character was viewed, I'm like, oh, and because I was also kind of confused about the gender and the age, like, I was like, wow, this is really sophisticated.
Oh damn.
Even though in the beginning of my experience, I was like, this is dumb as shit, right?
Yeah. Well, just because we talked, it made me figure out the eating metaphor. I had this at like a 3-star. I think it's a 4-star now, at least.
Interesting.
If not higher. Maybe on a rewatch,
it
could bump up to something really good.
I have no idea.
Oh, I still hate the teenager. It's a 4-star. It's like a low 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the point when I sort of realized what they were doing. So I have a little bit more respect.
Exactly. That's a very different.
Because it's sort of like the unexpected turn that's kind of like characteristic of Pixar. For them to do something that you don't really expect that's kind of quirky.
Yeah, for me, that wasn't the unexpected. I was following it along the entire time, and then that happened. I'm like, oh, shit. I don't like this.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's
I think that's
sort of what I thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, man. The most vivid food image is, because my grandma made dumplings by hand when I was younger.
And you even said at one point, oh man, this like
the way the meat looks, just the raw meat they put onto the dumplings, it looks perfect. It's exactly what it looks like. That pinkish, glistening, it just makes you salivate. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, good looking at. Arguably I think might be more visually unique than The Incredibles itself.
No, I disagree.
No? Okay.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
Okay. All right.
Although, it's being Pixar. I mean, anything produced by Pixar is not going to look incredible.
That's true.
That's
not going to look incredible. What did you say that?
That joke has lost all its steam. I'm not laughing at it.
What? Oh. It's going to look incredible.
Yeah. No, I mean, Pixar is just their amazing animation studio, and that's just who they are at the end of the day. Okay, let's talk about the film.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's do spoiler free first.
Yes.
Even though this is going to be very hard. What do you mean by visual style? I mean, I guess we have to go into detail.
Well, I mean, okay. So, I'm still thinking about the best way to say this. So, I enjoyed watching this film a bunch. And I immediately saw its flaws very early on. So I think that allowed me sort of like to see its flaws, understand its flaws, and enjoy the film anyway. So that's why I'm giving it a 4.5.
Damn.
Because it's the fucking Incredibles.
You could just be making an excuse for your nostalgia. Yeah, it's
well, here's the thing. It totally is a nostalgic thing, and I rate films based on how much I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
And because this is like something I really enjoyed.
And the first film influences your enjoyment of it. Yeah.
Like, I rate films based on how I enjoyed them, and I really enjoyed watching this. So that's the reason I gave it 4.5.
Yeah.
But it's not 5. Because there are many things about the writing of this film where I recognize it's a very similar thing to Star Wars.
Oh. Like the recent ones?
Yes, where it's really cool because I can see that, because I know the first one so well, I can see that Brad Bird, the concept of this film is Brad Bird's, and I can recognize that. And that makes it really cool because now it's like, yes, this is The Incredibles 2. This is definitely The Incredibles 2.
Okay.
However, because this is Pixar today, and not Pixar as it once was, they made the film that they knew 100% would be successful. They didn't take any risks in their narrative structure. They basically made exactly what they knew would be successful. they made the kind of film they knew audiences wanted to see. They made exactly the plot structure. They made it with the same twists,
The same
the
themes.
same themes as the original.
Yeah.
It's very much like with Force Awakens, where they basically remade Episode 4. And that film did wonderfully because it gave audiences exactly what they wanted.
That's a really
The
weird.
original
It's a
series.
really weird example for me.
Yeah.
Because for you grew up with both,
Yes.
and your reaction to these two remake sequels are different.
Yes.
For me, I didn't grow up with either of them. I watched them the originals all very late in my life. I love The Force Awakens, and I did not like Incredibles
Yeah.
2.
Well, the Incredibles
That's
2,
really interesting.
It's a very different case, though. Like that's sort of like the best example of like how I feel about it generally.
Uh-huh.
But there's a lot of in the Incredibles 2, the concept of the film I feel like is very good. However, the execution of a lot of the writing. But it's like, it's interesting because it's all in the details, right? There are some details in like individual things that I really love.
Yeah,
That are like
same.
wholly Brad Bird's, or not Brad
I'd
Bird's,
love
but
to
like
hear what these
wholly
are.
Pixar's, and we can get into that into
Yeah.
spoilers, what exactly those are. But like, it's like, yes, like I understand that character is acting in a way that makes sense. Because I know these characters so well, it totally makes sense that character would act that way.
Really?
And it's like, yeah, I get that.
For me-
but like it's playing it safe. It's playing.
There are
it
certain
like,
characters for me though, that I was like, why are they acting like this?
Yeah, and I know.
There's
what you're
one
talking
in
about.
particular.
Yeah, I know. I already know
Yeah.
who that is. But like,
And I get what
I understand-
thematically what they're
yeah,
going for.
I understand
but
what
I
they're. Yeah,
dislike
but like
it.
but I understand why you dislike it because what they. Okay, I think the main flaw that this film has, it treats its audience in a very silly way,
I agree.
where it explains everything to you.
Really?
It tells you everything. It doesn't show you anything. Something that early Pixar did really well
Yes.
was
First
that
Incredibles.
the themes were really interesting and it treated you as a really intelligent audience member. This film doesn't do that at all.
Yeah.
It gives you what you want in a very similar way to what Uncle Drew did. It
Yeah.
gives you the exact same formula of what you want this to be as The Incredibles 2. And they're doing it so that it can make money back, right? But there's also passion. It's not just like a cynical, like, they want to
Right,
make money thing,
exactly.
right? It seems to me like Brad Bird had this idea for The Incredibles 2, and then Pixar, as it is now, and also Disney, forms that idea into something they know 100% will sell.
Yeah, I
And
can't.
they do that, like, it's all in the details of, sorry, I just cut you off there, but, like, it's all in the details of, like, making it extra clear what's happening with the character and that you can understand why the characters are making the choices they are. And the result of that is the reason why I think you don't like this film.
Well, I didn't. Yeah. Well.
Yeah,
The,
is the exposition stuff that is just, like, it feels just weird.
yeah, well, no.
And
The direct
yeah.
correlation it has to my experience is for the first one, I felt things. Whether it's the themes of family or just badass superhero stuff. This one, I rarely felt anything.
Yeah, I think it's because it doesn't treat you as an intelligent audience
Yeah.
member.
Yeah.
Like, I saw the twist that this film has.
That's the thing. I
Like-
just
like
can't see
in the
Brad
first-
Bird. I
in the first
cannot
couple
see
of
Brad
scenes.
Bird coming up with that.
I feel like, well, I mean, with any film like this, it's like, it's a lot of different influences, right?
Right.
The identity of Brad Bird is there, but
Mm-hmm.
but this film obviously had so much influence over so many other writers
Yeah.
and other like Frankenstein opinions to make this into what it is now, which is basically what it is, the best-selling animation film
Yeah.
that exists now. I mean, part of that's due to inflation, right? But like, it's successful, and they've tweaked it so that to guarantee that it will be successful and that people will like it.
Right.
But as a payoff, it doesn't have the same kind of experimental magic that original Pixar once had.
True.
And I think this is something that's true, not just something Incredibles 2, but as Pixar as a whole going forward right now. Because right now, Pixar they started off as this sort of like thing that was against the grain
True.
and very creative and very risk-taking.
Yeah.
Now that they became really successful with that, they were bought by Disney, and they transformed it into something that's still like they create phenomenal work, but they don't have that same risk-taking.
But yeah, all the phenomenal work is there to fuel the money-making machine that is Disney.
that they turn into. I mean, a part of it is Pixar as well, because Pixar is now this huge thing, and they have this huge reputation.
Right, and I'm sure the size of Pixar as a company in terms of members is continually expanding, and when that happens, I feel like some of the original stuff probably does get chipped off from like the meetings.
Well, that's the thing with this film. Like, I can tell like there are so many interesting ideas here, but it's like all the edges are ripped off. Like a really good metaphor for this. Actually, I'm stealing from Jonathan Blow, who's a game designer who I really admire. Like what he describes as like AAA gaming. This is something that an opinion he has on AAA games is that the way they make games is they shave off all of the sharp edges so that they guarantee that anyone who plays it will have a good experience with it. But and in Jonathan Blow's opinion, like the thing to do instead is to leave those sharp edges and to take risks and be vulnerable, and that's its own words. But like in context of this is like to take risks narratively and with how you make the film, which is something the first Incredibles did really well. Yes. And this film doesn't do that at all. It just gives you what people want from a second Incredibles film.
Well, it not only doesn't do that well, in my opinion, I can think of two things where they set it up a certain way, and then by the end, they go the completely opposite direction.
Yeah,
and keeping it as vague as possible here.
Yeah.
But I had already seen this movie once during my trip in Newark, but because my voice was terrible, I didn't make a video immediately. But I'm glad that I got to see it again, and we got to talk about it with you, because this is the talk that, come on, this is where it's at.
Yeah, this is where it's at, yeah.
But, yeah, now that I've seen it again, I can really clearly say there are two things that partially maybe it's what I want, but it's also what the film hints at, where it wants to go. But somewhere in the last act or the second half, it just doesn't go there. It goes a totally different way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'd be interested to know exactly what it is once we get into spoilers. Yeah, for me, the experience of watching this was like a quarter through the way of the film, I understood who was who. I understood. Yeah, like that was like an immediate like, come on.
Yeah, exactly,
really?
Exactly.
It's like the fact that I understand the direction of the rest of the film, and then that it sort of satisfies that, made me feel just. That's the main reason I have the opinion that I did, because like with
so
the
it was
first
mostly
Incredibles
that.
With the first Incredibles film, like I never could have guessed the direction that it was going, because it was such a novel like reinterpretation of superhero movies.
Yeah.
This takes that same idea and expands on it a little bit in an interesting way, and also, like I'll give it to it. And the reason I'm rating this kind of high is the themes are also very relevant to today. Like. If this has themes of identity that are very strong, that are really, really awesome and wonderful, that it explores really well, that are parallel to like being homosexual or transgender or African American or like any sort of identity problem, you can identify with this film in a very interesting way.
Yeah.
Because that's what the superheroes are going through.
Right.
And it's even more of an attack on the political system, because like it's a law that's doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And like if it were not only the law, like that's the main premise of this film. It's like we want to fight back against the perception that society has against you as a people,
right? And
we want to also change the law.
Yeah.
Like that's a beautiful metaphor right there for like generic identity struggle.
Yeah.
When I say generic, usually when I say generic, that's like a bad thing. But here, it's like working to Pixar's advantage as something that is like really cool, and that's that's done. That's executed wonderfully.
For
and
me,
I
some
think-
of it-
for
some
me,
of it
that's-
works.
Yeah. However, the execution of it and the whole spiel I just went on with like Pixar making this a really, really just digestible film weakens that.
Yeah.
It weakens that because they're not taking risks in the same
That's
way
true.
that they were.
That's true.
It weakens that,
Yeah.
and it makes it not as strong as it could be.
But I actually think some of the stuff they try to do with the themes actually works to the film's detriment.
Oh, interesting.
But it's not
Yeah.
everything. Most of it is really good. But there's one thing in particular, one big thing that I'm like, like this is just
Can you talk about it without spoiling anything?
okay. So it's basically, so this movie is like quite feminist by making Elastigirl the star. Is that spoilery?
No, but I have thoughts on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like it's at the film's expense because Mr. Incredible's character is compromised. He starts making choices that, from seeing the first film, I never thought Mr. Incredible would make. And the only reason I can think of is because they want him to appear weaker and more just annoying.
I actually really bought into his story arc.
Yeah?
I was annoyed a little bit of how the wife, Mrs. Incredible and Mr. Incredible, sort of had their arc. But his own arc, I thought, maybe wasn't executed as well as it could have been because, I actually really liked it.
Really? I can tell you
Yeah.
really liked it because I
Yeah.
remember you were reacting to certain scenes that I was flatlining like both times, but you were reacting to a lot of it. And maybe that's just a personal thing, but for me that was like super out of character. Like in my opinion, but I guess since you just validated the film for doing it, like in my opinion, if a theme works to the detriment of the film's like core characters, it doesn't. Yeah, I don't think it's.
That's okay. I should save it for spoilers.
Right.
But that's the kernel of that. The execution is a little not as well as it could have been. I keep saying that 'cause
Yeah.
that's like the best way I can think to describe this without
Right.
really spoiling a
Right.
lot. But the kernel of that idea I can recognize as something that is Brad Bird's and of that original Pixar
Yeah.
spirit.
Okay. I see that.
That's part of the reason why I really like it, because it has I can see the passion in making a decision of like that, and I can explain that a little bit better
Okay.
once we're in spoilers.
Believe it or not, I haven't even said
Yeah.
probably my biggest overall annoyance with the movie because
Yeah?
I cannot even say it at all without going into spoilers.
Okay.
And-
Is there anything else? I do want to go into spoilers. So
Yeah.
is there anything else we want to say?
I don't think Michael Giacchino's score is as strong as the first one.
Okay. I really like it.
I really like it too.
I don't know the first score well enough.
Oh, okay.
To make a good comparison. Like, I know the film really well,
Right.
but like that was back when I didn't really have the kind of musical ears that I had, and I haven't really seen it again since.
I'm just
I
gonna
really
tell
like,
you.
I really like the score, but it wasn't like again, it's like they didn't take a lot of
Yeah,
risks.
it feels like because
Yeah.
Michael Giacchino has done this is like part of his early work, the first Incredibles, and then he did a lot of mainstream films. He did a ton of Marvel movies. He did Jurassic World. He became the most prolific, I think, one of the most prolific Hollywood composers, and it shows in this. There are moments where it goes the cliche route. There were beats when a character is delivering something emotional, and the music cue would sink in.
Well, that's Pixar playing it safe.
Yeah.
That's them playing it safe.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
it did not start until the character started delivering its style. There were scenes where if the scene had started just completely with that type of tone, and then the character started delivering like the emotional line, that would have worked. But no, they had to time it so that when the moment he utters his first words, the music cue comes in.
That's the telling versus showing that
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
is part of what that we're basically talking about the same thing almost, but in different words. Like that's a big part of like making sure you understand what the character is feeling.
In many ways,
through
Uncle
the
Drew does
music.
the same thing with
Yeah.
music.
Oh yeah.
Any emotional scene.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's one thing. Oh yeah, I was gonna tell you. I know you were surprised by this. When you rewatch the original, next time you do, in a decade or 2 decades, get ready to be appalled at how the animation has aged.
Oh yeah.
There are scenes where I couldn't even believe it looks like some college blender project.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But the thing is, once the movie started and the story kicked in, I was super immersed in it as well. I don't think it plays that much to the films. Yeah, it doesn't age that badly.
At the time, it was really good.
It was very
animation.
good.
Like for what, 2007 was it?
2004.
2004. Oh my god, for 2004,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Yeah.
that joke is.
It seems like, yeah, the media has hammered in. This is the 14-year wait. Everyone has said, yeah, like every review, everyone knows, yeah, was it 14 years? It's been 14 years since the
They're
first
trying
one.
to like
It's
hype it up
14 years.
so that it's successful as Toy Story 3 was,
even
basically.
that little thing we got at the before the movie, where like Samuel L. Jackson and all the
That
actors.
made me so on edge.
Yeah.
Like, I totally understand why they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in hindsight, because they didn't really have anything to apologize for.
Right.
Because it's a good, solid film in its own right. Like, that set me up to believe, like, what are we in for?
Right.
What in the world?
Yeah, but you compare that with like the one they did for Coco, where they wanted to show how complex the animation for The Land of the Dead is, and I think that's a much better way of doing it, even though it spoils.
I think Pixar is like, this is their way of trying to connect with their audience in a different way,
and
I had to give it to them to trying something different. I really like that. That's part of the experimental thing. That I wish they could do more of that. Even though I don't really agree with that choice that they did, I wish they did more of that in their filmmaking.
Yeah.
Which they kind of do, but I wish they could push it farther.
Yes.
In the ways they were doing in early
Yes.
Pixar days.
Yes. And I have to, right before we go, this is the last thing before we go into spoilers.
Okay.
While you were talking about how like certain beats of the movie were like really, you know, maximalized for like audience effect, I can't help but think of Coco. Because I gave Coco 5 stars, and that's the reason for that is it does have familiar beats and familiar reveals. But for the reveal in Coco, the moment I figured it out, it was a gut punch. I was like, oh shit, how are the characters going to react to it when the film reveals it? So there's this emotional heft, there are stakes, and that's also what makes the ending so emotional. And I can't fault the movie for using a trope when it's delivered that powerfully and that with that much feeling. So that for me is what made Coco stand out. But what made this a totally almost bland experience. Not almost bland, it is bland.
It is.
I'm very sorry.
It's like okay, this is my view of this film. They took a really cool idea, which is The Incredibles, formed it into a story that was kind of interesting, made it bland, and then put details on it that made it really interesting.
Yeah, okay.
That's what this feels like to
I
me.
like it.
That's what this feels like to me. Like, the overall experience is bland, but there are so many individual things about the film that, like, I feel like Brad Bird was, I have this really great idea for the film. Dick Sarn-Pisney went like, okay, we'll do that for you. Make it really bland. But then Brad Bird is able to elevate it just a little bit to make, like, all of these little things about the film really cool and actually feel like The Incredibles.
Right.
And the end result is something that is very heartfelt, The Incredibles.
Yeah, it feels like
it's
The Incredibles.
Yeah, it's almost like Brad Bird did the best he could given the state of Pixar and Disney right now. So that's part of the reason why I'm rating this so high, because I feel like because of the state of I keep saying Brad Bird because like that's the best way I can feel to describe like the original energy that the original had. It's like saying his name because like let's face it, he's probably mostly. I mean, there's probably a whole bunch of people who are responsible, but like I say his name because I think that's something that's identifiable.
He's the creative
right?
genius behind it.
Yeah, he's a creative genius behind it. Yeah, but like I can see his influence so strongly in this film, and yeah, okay, we should get into the spoilers.
Yeah. Let us get into spoilers. And I'm going to have you lead off if you have one particular point you want to start bringing up, because I have a bevy of points.
All right.
I don't even know where to start.
I don't know where to start either, so how about you start?
Okay, let's start with the most overall thing.
Okay.
And you can interrupt me, but don't interrupt me and take it too far.
Okay,
you can with short jabs.
Sure.
You're not going to agree with me when I start this, but I'm going to try to flesh it out.
All right.
I think this film does too much that rehashes the first.
Oh, I agree.
And here's why.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. They can make infinite sequels now, just following the exact same structure of the movie. Because from my recent viewing of the first Incredibles, the ending implied something that the beginning of the second movie completely just denied. It felt like a cop-out. So the ending of the first movie, it feels like the parents had to learn to somewhat let go. I mean, these are all implied, and that's what makes the first film so good. And with, like, yeah, it implies that the first film, like, the parents have to somewhat let go of the kids, and that the family clearly functions the best when everyone's allowed to express their power. And when the Underminer appears at the end of the movie, you're led to believe that, you know, there's not going to be any more of that babysitting parental stuff, that they're actually going to start working like a superhero
That's
family.
a really strong point.
Yeah. And then the second movie starts.
No,
And-
you gotta babysit Jack Jack, go.
Yeah, okay. With the Jack Jack stuff, I'm like, okay, because they didn't know that Jack Jack has powers yet.
Right.
I'm like, okay, the Jack Jack thing is kind of fun. It's kind of good. But what happens at the end of the movie? Jack Jack puts on his, I think the mother even gives Jack Jack a knowing look for Jack Jack to put on his spectacles, even though it was never implied that the parents have accepted Jack Jack as a part of their superhero force. So they almost do the same thing where, like, they jump to a place where they're suddenly working as a unit, a superhero unit again. Even though the entire movie, much similar to the first, is them getting to the point where, like, okay, the parents can somewhat let go of the kids and have them do their thing. And what really annoys me is the moment where the mother, Elastigirl, gets her goggles taken off at, like, on the ship, and then she's like, oh, I'm so proud of you guys for saving me, because that's the moment where I'm like, oh, that's, like, completely a rehash of the first film. And it's so convenient because at this point in the movie, we know that she's a very worrying mother. And the only reason that she's proud of them is because it's convenient for her to be proud of them. Is because we need that wholesome family moment.
Yeah.
And I just wish I could have seen more. It would have seen more of the family just caring less about, like, each other. And I know a lot of the movie is about family, but a part of me just feels like the first movie have already reached a point where, like, because it partially is a coming of age film for Violet, and to a lesser extent Dash. So I wanted the second film to be more of just the badass family with less of the family issues. And to me, it not only like makes the film a little heftier, like, in a negative way, but it also, like, there's a lot more potential in action scenes when there's not as much stuff that they have to be constantly reminding each other about. I thought the action in this movie could have been better.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they do a lot. It's very creative. I think the first one was more creative. When Dash
Yeah.
runs on water.
Yeah.
When Dash
Yeah,
is, like,
because
paddling the boat.
everything becomes a
Mother's
reveal
ship.
because Violet and Dash aren't really aware of their powers, and they have their own development of, oh, this is how fast I can run. Oh, this is what I can do with my force field. Like, they're basically underdeveloped children who don't know anything about their own powers. And this film, it takes them as, okay, now we know what we're doing.
But let's deal with
it.
now
let's deal with Jack Jack being a baby.
Yeah, and that's okay. So after the first time I watched the movie, I thought, like, wow, you know, the way they treated Jack Jack in the last act is a very good metaphor for what this movie does. Because one of my favorite, like, maybe 10 minutes of film in this movie is, like, the visits to Edna.
Yeah,
I think Edna was perfect.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that she realized that I wish the rest of the characters and the rest of the film could have explored more is that I thought it was very clever that the reason Jack Jack has so many powers is because he's still a baby.
Yeah.
And it's about his potential.
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, so I wanted that. I wish that the entire arc with Jack Jack is at the end. And I know this might be really weird to say. I wish the parents could have let Jack Jack roam free for a bit. Let him really go ape shit on his powers.
I feel like if they do make a third one, that's what will happen.
I'm not even that confident.
I'm not confident that they'll do that, but that, like, because of what they did in the second one, that's, like, the most logical next step.
Okay.
Who knows what they'll actually do?
Right.
But that makes a lot of sense because they didn't really explore that. I feel like they're almost like holding back. Because so that they can do more, which is interesting because in the first one they didn't hold back.
Exactly.
They just did everything.
Exactly.
They did everything and they gave a conclusion that made sense.
Yeah.
Because they never thought Incredibles 2. Fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
No way.
Exactly. No,
but
we're
now,
busy
like,
making
Pixar's
the
like, we can make sequels, and we're really fucking
That's
good at
very
making
true.
sequels, and people want this. Let's make it and get some money, bitch. And Brad Bird is like, yeah, I'm all for it because like he will have a fun time with it, right?
Right. Oh no, here's the moment that really drove me crazy. They're in the car, Dash and Violet. They got their seatbelts on. They're like, okay, what do we have? We have each other's powers, and we also have Jack's powers. They have the realization that they can use his powers, but then later on, what do they do when they get on the ship? Oh shit, we need to babysit Jack. Oh, we're not. Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's the reason. That's what I'm talking about. When the film sets up one thing and then totally goes against it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's like the shoddy writing. Like, it's like, this is a really great film, but there's so many moments like that where like it has a rotten moment in the writing that just like that conflict just didn't make sense.
Because in that scene, it's implied that within like a confined space, they could go into Jack's interdimensional places.
Yeah,
why didn't they explore
that was so cool. That was like,
more?
whoa,
yeah, exactly.
that opens up a whole new thing, and they never explored that.
Yeah, nope.
They never
Instead, they make
explored that.
Jack really big to get out of the duct.
Yeah, like the whole Jack thing, like the Jack art was entertaining.
The best part,
I really enjoyed the
raccoon
fight.
fight.
That was amazing.
Yes.
That was like, and the whole probably my favorite moment in the whole film is like, it's this big gag in the first one when Edna has this whole like security thing to get into her little experiment base place.
Oh, okay.
And the second one when Jack did all that for her.
That
was one of the most like satisfying like referential jokes.
Yeah, I kind of picked up. I'm like, this is very elaborate.
Like, because like in the first one,
in
the first one, like she says her name and it confirms her. And this big laser is about to like shoot Mr. Incredible, and she says, "End guest," and the laser goes away, and it becomes like this hilarious moment. It's like one of the high points of like that whole scene.
Yep.
And they did it again, and Jack did everything, and Jack even like babbles, and it confirms the whole like, oh yeah, they're really like together now, and how Jack was like
the knowing look with
like
the lollipop.
the knowing look with the
and
lollipop.
And they like pose at the end,
and they pose like it's the most ridiculous shit ever, but it's so good because it's so Brad Bird, it's so Edna, it's so like it's this comedy that's just really
that's
great.
The thing, though, in terms of comedy, I felt like I can't remember specifics, and that's the biggest sin of this point that I'm about to make, is that I felt like when I was watching the first film, there were more clever word plays, there were more clever jokes that made me go, or actually made me laugh.
Yeah.
This one, it had funny moments,
Yeah.
but it's like, hey, this is really good water, which is like, fine, it's okay, but it's not really.
Okay, let's talk about his arc now.
Okay,
I know you were just like, that doesn't make sense, right? Okay.
Like by the time he had his freak out with like the stubble, I'm like, okay, you're just really playing it over the top.
Okay, I really liked it.
Really?
Personally. I mean, I have an issue with a lot of the writing in this film, so it's not that strong, but the core behind it, I really do get behind.
Okay.
Because like, if you think about it, it's kind of an ingenious move for his character to sort of do that, I think, because it does not make sense.
I recognize what they're doing, and I think there is a version of it where it could totally work.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that the first film totally denies. It's something that the first film doesn't really establish. It keeps it like, okay, we don't know what Mr. Incredible would be like when he's put in a situation like this. And I even like the moments where he's like, yeah, I'm used to everything being incredible. I'm not Mr. So-so. I'm like, oh, I see the inspiration behind this writing and the creation of this arc, but I just think they play it way too far.
I think if they had developed it a little bit more, it could have been more interesting. Because it starts off as too. like Mr. Incredible, he tries to muscle his way into parenting and he fails.
Yeah.
And then where do they take it? Oh, he gets really tired and he gets more and more frustrated, and it's like the same theme, but they just keep recasting it.
I wish the more and more frustrated could have been more subtle. I thought it just jumped. I think that's actually one thing.
That goes back to the thing of like this film making sure you understand everything that's going on, so that you feel comfortable as a viewer. Yeah, like I wish they made people like question more like, like, oh, is he having a hard time? But like instead they just like make it super clear
That's
that he's
the
having a hard
thing
time.
that the first film does so well.
Yeah.
Because the first film is also a lot about Mr. Incredible.
Yeah.
You see him making the gains and like, you know, secretly going on work trips, but also wanting to care about his family. You don't know which side is right.
Yeah.
There's that dilemma. You're like, oh, I see. He's like, that's his true where his true passion is. But also his family matters. And Elastigirl's opinion is totally valid and totally like, you can see why they want to settle down. Also, it's illegal.
Yeah. Here's the conflict of the film is like, dude, you got this opportunity. Of course you should take it. I mean, it ends up being like a disastrous move. But like under the circumstances, they're fucking homeless. And they're
Yeah.
having a conflict whether or not they should do this.
Yeah.
That just felt silly. That was the weakest point in the whole film.
But it's also the way
that scene in the bedroom
oh,
where like Elastigirl's like, but I gotta take care of the kids and it's illegal. Like, they're giving you an out so that you can be your true self. Your whole family can be your true
Yeah.
self. How would you not pounce upon that?
see, that's what I'm saying. The conclusion of the first film is totally thwarted.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
It's like, oh, maybe superheroes can be this thing, and then like when all the destruction happens, they just bring back the old conflict.
Yeah,
So that-
Frozone's the best character in this movie.
Yeah.
Along with Edna. Like his writing, I thought, any line he delivers, and his overall character is very
Yeah.
consistent. And yeah, he's just there.
I will say though, I enjoyed everyone's acting, at least for them like the main characters. The entrepreneur guy, I wasn't as impressed by.
So here's
he
my
felt more like
theory.
he felt more like just like a caricature.
But here's the thing. Yeah, so the thing is, I wish there was more of a dilemma for when Elastigirl goes out to do this mission, because right from the beginning you know that something's off. And I think the film actually wanted to set up the fact that the dude was the villain.
That's what I thought at first. I knew
Because
at first when
he-
like it's like they are either doing it together or one of them is the villain.
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
deceiving the other.
Because he's
Yeah.
intentionally being that guy who's like a little mousy.
Yeah.
He's like got like, oh, look on the bright side.
Yeah, and they even set up the conflict of like the reason of why like they would have reason to like be against superheroes and shit.
Right,
Yeah.
and you can tell that shit is sort of shady, and that's actually a pun because one of the first things she gets is like a shady outfit.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's because so immediately if they establish that a little later, that these people are like not to be trusted, we can have a moment where like when Elastigirl goes, we're like, okay, is this the right thing or is this the wrong thing to do? Here, immediately we get a shady vibe, like, okay,
Yeah.
there's something not right about this.
Yeah.
Because they're jumping onto it so far, and they're literally like seeking out crime in a crime city. Like everything about this is rubbed the wrong way. Although I do have to say, I did like the little nods to like the DC universe, like the waterfall opening up, and even I even think the shady outfit is something that like is a commentary on the Nolan Batman.
That's-
and the
I didn't
DC.
think of that. That's really funny.
That didn't come across until the second viewing. I'm like, oh, that's really good.
that's pretty funny.
And even the rich house that they end up living in, it reminds me of like Tony Stark's layout, especially
it's very similar,
especially in
yeah.
Iron Man 3, where it's
Yeah.
actually somewhere near a cliff in California. Yeah. So
yeah, I already saw that this guy was actually the villain in some sense. So when I saw the house, I sort of understood that this also meant to be sort of like a criticism on rich money and like its power.
okay,
And
sure.
like I don't know, that's sort of how I interpreted it at the time, because so much of this is about like who has the power politically.
Yeah, which is
And-
very strange how
yeah.
he ends up being a good guy. Like, I feel like because they want to give like a gotcha, the sister is actually the villain.
Yeah.
That kind of character is not consistent. He even makes this weird line that's like, "We will make superheroes legal again," and I'm like, "Make America great again?" But the thing is, yeah, no, it's not even subtle. But the thing is,
my
he's
God.
not even the
Wow.
villain there.
I did not make
Yeah,
that.
for him to in the end actually be right. And there's even like an Obama lookalike. And the first person to sign it was an H. Selleck, who's a woman, like a middle-aged woman.
Like who's that?
Who's
right?
that?
Who's that? I can never
Yeah.
guess.
So I'm wondering, like, did they have an idea
Hillary
to
Clinton,
make,
by the way.
to make him a villain, like you know, like a Trumpish character, but then halfway to be like, no, let's actually make the sister the villain. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there were some things that they kept in there that like just didn't really match up.
Yeah, that sister character. Okay, so like, at first I thought it was really interesting the dynamic they were building between the sister and Mrs. Incredible.
Yeah.
but I immediately saw that it was manipulation.
Exactly.
Because I understood
if
that...
they didn't have the second
Yeah.
one of those little conversations,
Uh-huh.
they might have still been able to keep it under wraps.
Yeah, like I can understand like if I hadn't already figured out, that
Right,
would have been a
exactly.
really cool reveal, and those conversations would have been like, oh, this feels really nice. But because I see straight through it, it's just
Right,
like I saw this
right.
character as almost a caricature,
Uh-huh.
as like. At first, okay, when she came in,
Uh-huh.
her immediate like coming in. At first, I thought she was a trophy wife.
Oh, really? You know who she reminded me of? Helena Bonham Carter in Fight Club. She even looked like her.
Yeah,
She's like a little
That's-
disheveled.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the moment I'm like, what, Marla? Yeah, that's her name. Marla?
Yeah.
Is that you?
Yeah, she's sort of like 2018's version
Yeah, a
of
little,
a hot trophy
little
wife.
punkish.
But she
with
like
short
she's a little
hair.
punkish, short hair.
Yeah.
She's like really hip.
Really
It's
hip.
like the really hip chick,
Mm-hmm.
and she like acts as the foil to the old money. Oh, the old
Okay.
new money kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like he's really young. He has a lot of money, but
Mhm.
that money, like, however you got it, it's implied that this comes from some sort of old source.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
I like
because
that.
like his father is like some entrepreneur. Yeah, they even make it with his father is like this big entrepreneur for superheroes and stuff, and like that's how he's rich. They make that very clear in the beginning.
Yeah.
And the sister is like.
But at the same time,
yeah.
she's very tech savvy.
Oh well, she's like
Well,
she's
yeah.
the criminal mastermind.
Right,
of the whole
exactly.
film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which has an interesting dimension, but it's not that interesting.
Yeah.
Because the whole reveal. Yeah. Oh, I had another point. I just forgot. Something about the reveal. Yeah. Okay.
So Syndrome's review. Oh, sorry. You should go
I was
first.
going to compare
Yeah.
with Syndrome,
Yeah.
but first of all, I actually liked the setup of Screenslaver because I thought they were going to make a commentary on how we're addicted to our screen.
Me too. I think it actually is a little bit of
a
that. Yeah.
little bit of that.
But they don't. I wish they'd have got
See,
into
the
that.
monologue
Yeah.
where like Elastigirl's like climbing through buildings.
That was
I
really
thought
interesting.
That was a cool moment.
That was really cool.
And the little
moment,
girl
yeah.
with the sign, like okay, you've seen that before, but there's a legitimate threat there.
Yeah.
It felt like there was a threat going on.
Yeah.
And then that reveal. It turns out it was just her being like, oh, and actually, if you think about the backstory, it makes no sense how like she would derive that conclusion from the fact that her father not calling the superhero would make her like the superheroes not responding would make her hate superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the brother's side is much more logical.
Oh, you know what's interesting?
What?
You know why he didn't pick up?
Why?
They were dead. Because Syndrome killed them.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So this is actually like the reason this film has conflict
Right.
is because of Syndrome.
Hey.
It stemmed from the first
Works
film.
literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that's
But that's
really
the same
interesting.
thing. Like she
Yeah.
should hate on the law along with her brother. I think it's so far fetched that she would end up hating superheroes because of that fact.
Well, they make it make sense.
It's
It's a really weak excuse.
yeah,
It's the
it's
weakest
weak.
excuse.
Mm-hmm.
But like they try and justify it.
Because Syndrome
Yeah.
is such a good villain.
Yes,
With
because he
the-
has such a great reason to be who he is.
Yeah, the thing about
Yeah.
Syndrome that I love the most is that you don't. It's one of those villains where you don't think Mr. Incredible could have prevented him from happening. Yeah, he just is an evil that's almost like a necessary evil. That crazy fanboy.
Yeah.
That goes a little too far.
Yeah.
And his whole reasoning for killing heroes for his ego, but at the same time like commenting on like
Yeah.
just the heroes. It's really, really nuanced.
Yeah, this one is like the reason she does this is because it's a grudge against an accident that happened, and it has to do with like a difference in philosophy about that superheroes should exist. Like it's not just like her mother died and she's mad about her mother being dead. It's
Yeah.
like, well, actually, it is kind of about that, but it's
Yeah.
like that fuels basically her desire for just
It's like a vengeance sort of.
like it's really
yeah.
it's like a revenge story, but they don't call it a revenge story.
Uh-huh.
They call it I have a different philosophy about superheroes.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which like it's like the core of it is interesting, but like if they had developed
Yeah,
it
but the
more-
big idea behind it.
Yeah.
If the Screenslaver ended up being just some dude, that would have been much more interesting. Because even with like the pizza dude, like we immediately knew that the pizza dude wasn't the real Screenslaver. He was just
Yeah.
some sort of foil.
That's the thing. this film lets the audience get ahead of the
Right.
of
Oh,
Elastigirl.
constantly.
That annoys the fuck out of me because they didn't do that in the first one.
Yeah,
in
because-
the first one you learn things with Mr. Incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this one,
Just
like
really-
they cue you in so that you feel like a smart audience member.
Oh yeah.
That's part of, and the reason they do that is because that works.
Yeah.
It works as a narrative device.
No, compare. So my favorite action scene in the movie is actually the scene where Elastigirl stops the train. But you compare that with the Elastigirl stealth scene in the first one, where she gets caught between the door. There's so much tension in that because you don't know if she's gonna get out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that they're gonna make it alive, but you don't know if she's gonna get
Yeah.
out of it.
In that train scene, I could already tell that it was set up.
Right. Exactly.
So you already know how it's
That's
gonna end.
The fact that Elastigirl did not know that it was set up.
Yeah.
I'm just like, come on.
Duh.
And for the fact that when she actually discovers it, the girl says, "Man, you're good." I'm like,
It's like, it's.
yeah,
I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah.
It's like it's satisfying the audience in a horrible way.
yeah,
It's unlike Pixar for them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It almost makes me think that like they had this idea to do it this way, and Brad Bird had this idea to execute it in this way, and then, but for reasons, they had to make it super clear of what was going on,
right,
and it totally destroys the conflict
right, exactly.
because they make it so clear what's going on early on. Now, here's the thing: with film viewers who are not as perceptive, especially kids, this will work. Because with kids, they're not going to have the experience of seeing a lot of films to be able to catch on that these people are actually the villains. So, therefore, and also just people who, like, general film viewers who go as well, who aren't as
Yeah.
cued into these sort of clues. Therefore,
Everyone
think
I've
about
talked to, though, figured it out.
Oh, really?
Everyone of any film viewing level.
in that case, I think it's them being like, well, actually,
know-
okay, I have no idea.
You know
But
the-
like the reason I say that is because the screensaver, if you actually do buy in that the screensaver is real, then the reveal that the screensaver is fake makes the screensaver a really interesting character.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you're a slave to your screen. And you believe him to be real, and then he's fake, then it's like that confirms that, oh, we were a slave because we believe that you're a real character.
Right.
But instead,
We're watching it on a screen.
and we're watching it on screen.
Yeah,
There's
the
a whole
meta
meta
level
thing
is totally
that,
there.
And then,
It's
but
just
yeah,
there.
but it's totally lost because it's
Exactly.
totally apparent that this is a setup, and it loses
Totally.
its power.
We said total like 4 times in that sense. Like, totally.
It's totally
Yeah.
apparent. I use totally a lot. I
Yeah,
guess.
no, I never noticed that until now. But,
Yeah. So yeah, it's like I feel like Brad Bird in like the early stages of this film, he imagined that reveal to be as powerful as the Syndrome reveal, where
Maybe.
you totally didn't see it coming.
Oh, yeah. In a way, it is structured almost similarly to the Syndrome reveal.
Well, this is basically it's The Incredibles 1, but revamped to be less.
Right.
It's just less.
But the problem is they have
Yeah.
the Elastigirl and villain conversations that kind of want you to get ahead. With Syndrome, you have no idea who it is until it's the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so
Yeah.
brilliant.
It's such a brilliant move.
Yeah.
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 What else was I
Yeah.
gonna say?
You said the action sequences are weak. I love the action sequences.
I loved what they did, but I
Yeah.
thought there could be more.
I could see what you
Yeah.
mean by being more,
Partially
but I was
it's-
satisfied by them regardless.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because for what this film does not do well, what it does do well is its creative action work.
Okay, yeah,
Like
absolutely.
Elastigirl on a bike that splits in half.
I mean, I love that.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna use that word. That
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
I was like, that's so cool,
Uh-huh.
and that makes for really interesting situations.
Right. But for me,
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, like I already said, is the fact that the action in the first Incredibles feel tense. Like, there's a scene where
Yeah.
Elastigirl's also in a tunnel, I think, and there are like the rail rides. There's one that just comes at her, and she, like at the very last millisecond, she like dodges on the wall.
Yeah, this
And
one's
I'm
like-
whoa,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
this-
I guess the action in this, like its intention is to do that. It doesn't do that.
doesn't do
But
that.
I was still impressed.
There's a
just
lot
by-
of wizardry in it.
I was
still. There's a
impressed
lot of-
by the wizardry,
And
like
there's-
it's very
it's creative-
creative.
it's creative, too.
Like like someone who fights with portals.
Okay,
How cool
Void.
is
No,
that?
that's what I was gonna say. Void was great.
Void was awesome.
Void was
I loved her
super
character.
well. Yeah,
You know what I really like about
Ooh,
Void,
what?
and also that cast of characters, it strengthens the metaphor of identity.
Yeah, I really like that
because
whole thing.
Void was like totally reminded me of like someone who's like sexually confused or like
Okay.
or not
I
maybe
see
not
that. I
sexually
never even
maybe
thought
not
of that.
sexually but like confused with their identity that has to
Uh-huh.
do with maybe gender or sexuality or
Uh-huh.
something
Uh-huh.
and or someone who just doesn't fit in
Yeah.
for whatever reason,
Yeah.
right? And like seeing a figure and being inspired by that and connecting that with the heroism theme, I thought it was amazing because I also had someone who looked kind of like heterosexually gay or
Yeah.
stereotypically gay.
Also
They had
the way
someone
she
who was
treats-
African American.
okay,
They
yeah.
had someone. I feel like they took every sort of minority and put it in that group.
Yeah, and it got to a point where like the moment I first saw them in that meeting room, I'm like, oh, they probably don't even have I knew they were gonna have powers, but I'm like, oh, they probably don't even have real powers. They're just like the film trying to do that. And then they actually revealed that they all have powers, and that's when the message actually hit. And I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of strong.
Yeah, I was questioning whether they were just like a bunch of
fan
non-supers,
peop- yeah.
fans.
Uh-huh.
But then she showed she had portals.
Exactly.
It's like, I get it now.
Yeah. And then when Dash was running through the portals, that's like a portal moment.
I almost wonder if her character's inspired by
Probably.
because even the way she fought is the way that the mechanics in that game work.
Right.
Like she would someone would be running and she'd put a portal under them
Yeah.
and make them fly
Yeah.
just like you do in the game. Like that's such a cool. I can totally see Brad Bird being playing Portal and being like, if there's ever Incredibles 2, we need to have a character that does this.
Yeah, yeah. For me, the thing about that last action scene, and I might be spoiled by a post-Avengers, and I haven't even seen Infinity War, and apparently one of the strongest things in that movie is how they juggle the characters super well. Everyone has unanimously said, they have no idea how they did it, but they made it work.
Yeah, with so many characters that they've
Yeah,
established.
yeah,
I can imagine
but
it's a big challenge.
one of the things that I wish they could have done more is that after all the other heroes that weren't Void turned good, I thought they were gonna fight with them. Owlman disappeared. Regurgitator Man disappeared.
Well, they did help out, but there were so many of them that they kind of had to help out in small ways to spread it out.
I guess so. I don't know. I wanted more. I guess I kind of wanted more of that overwhelmness.
Yeah.
I just thought that they could have done more. I'm just spoiled.
Yeah, they kind of focused on a few so that they could have a few moments where how do I uncrush? I've never needed to do that.
That's funny.
That was funny.
That was funny. I like that.
Yeah, and it was funny because it connected well with the theme of oh yeah, he's this underdeveloped.
It also
and-
connected well with the Hulk. It's very much like a Hulk smash
yeah.
type of reference.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And the way he kind of speaks but doesn't really.
Yeah.
Oh, how do you uncrush? Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, because the first one, it does draw a lot of parallels to back then. Well, back then was the comic books because we didn't have a superhero saturated cinematic universe. It still does some of it here, the connections with actual superhero franchises, but I don't think it's as strong. I don't know. The other one
not at
actually
all.
comments
Not at
on
all. The other one, so
the situation.
something that's in the bonus features of the
Oh,
first
here it comes.
Incredibles film. It's actually really amazing.
Uh-huh.
What they did was they show you the backstory of something they planned out but never told you fully in the film. They have individual profiles for all of the superheroes that they created for this film. It's actually really amazing. And they frame it sort of as you're looking through Syndrome's computer and
nice.
looking at all the files, right?
You're gonna pause. Oh, you're not gonna pause. Okay. 20%. We're
okay.
fine.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yep.
So it's you can with your it's like a menu thing, right?
Yeah.
Where you there's it's hard for me to remember because this is kid
a
brain.
long time
This is
ago.
kid brain remembering, but I think there were 30 or 40 different superheroes that they invented
Oh,
to
right.
create this universe.
Right, because on Syndrome's computer, it was just
Yeah.
like, there's this person, and all the names
Yeah.
are so cheeky.
All the names were cheeky.
And they were funny.
But they were funny, and they were totally in the style of
The
of
classic
the classic superhero
comic books,
Like
yeah.
it felt like it came from the 1930s and 40s and 50s in
Yeah.
that time era.
Yeah.
And what's even more amazing is every single power. Like it's not like they just ripped it off from a DC character. It was actually like something super unique.
Yeah.
There was even like a short animated cartoon that was in the style of an old Batman animated thing.
Really?
That was with Frozone
Oh, shit.
and like I think Mr. Incredible and like some other random. Yeah, it was with Frozone, and then two other superheroes who we never hear about in the main film except in passing. I think it might have a Gazer Beam, which is like he has a plot. He has a thing with the plot. But like they do the 1950s go after the haunted clown in the who like someone who wants to destroy the bridge.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like,
I remember the
whole
haunted clown
trope.
with
Like they like play into the trope, right?
Yeah.
And who knows like where
Was it
this
Bon
came from.
Voyage?
It was.
There's not Bon Voyage.
It was not Bon Voyage.
Bon Voyage was the one in the movie.
The villain was actually somewhat ridiculous. Like it was like Bumblebee Man or something. Like it was totally just out there.
Yeah.
I feel like this
but some
is
of the
like,
comics actually have really ridiculous
Yeah.
villains. It's
Yeah, it was
not
like-
the ones that
like-
get adapted, but they exist.
Yeah, like the first film so much captured that.
Yeah.
And this second film, like, it didn't invent. It just took what the first film invented and like tried to make a solid sequel. And they didn't
yeah.
have this like, okay. And I don't know. They did interesting things like Mr. Incredible's character. Oh, I never got to say what I thought about him. So, okay, so I actually did. So, like, I really bought into his character specifically because I just bought into like the kernel of what like they were going for.
Yeah.
Even though I sort of understood that they could have taken it farther and maybe like developed it more. But I really like the idea of Mr. Strongman being kind of put
Oh, sure.
in a very, I mean, it is feminist, right? Being put
Yeah.
in a parenting situation that he's not used to.
It's also a very vulnerable spot.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I think
also a very vulnerable spot, yeah.
They
Yeah, and like to like,
do that semi
no,
well.
you can't. Yeah, he but like he outright says it at one point, which makes it way too clear and made too easy. Like, I think the line he says is, "I always know what the right thing to
Right,
do
right.
is." And I don't know how to be incredible, and that was just really hard for him because he didn't know how to do that. But that speaks perfectly to who his power,
Right.
which is to be incredible and being the guy who always knows the right thing to do is. In this case, he didn't know what the right thing to do was, and in this parenting situation, he tried to strongman his way out. In one case, it worked, almost worked. With like him staying up all night and learning how they change math,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
then like he tried
Which
to
was a
strong
nice moment
Yeah,
when
that
he
was a very
actually
strong
stayed up
moment.
and- yeah.
And like it worked for a little bit, but then they changed math again.
Yeah.
I love how they say that.
Yep.
Because it's like perfect like parent kid like
Every textbook, every
relationship.
edition, they do
Like,
just something different.
It's like, no, why did they change
Yeah,
math?
exactly.
Which like no, they didn't change that. They're changing how they're teaching it, right?
you have to use TI calculators. We
yeah.
didn't have that back in my day.
Yeah, I love that so much.
No, that's not in the movie.
But like, I love how like he tries to deal with Violet, like having to deal with this boyfriend issue in the worst way possible that he feels like is so gonna work because he's Mr. Incredible. Like I just really bought that whole thing.
I can see that.
Yeah,
but,
and that was and also like I really enjoyed like Dash's thing wasn't really developed that much, but I really dug like how teenage grumpy Violet was because that's a side of her that we didn't get to see in the first
I
film so
like
much.
Teenage Grumpy Violet when she tried to like grind the suit, but I thought the timing where she said she gives the dad a hug, while necessary, you can argue that
was not earned.
It's just her having temper tantrums, but it's also just bad writing.
That was not earned.
Yeah, it's
like
not earned.
the kids she went from I hate you, Dad, to I love you, Dad. Let me make you breakfast. That didn't work.
Exactly.
That was not
exactly.
earned.
I agree.
That was not earned. Like, I would have felt much. It would have been much more interesting, and they didn't take this risk because no, we want to make audiences feel good. We want this film to work. We don't want people to get mad at us. No, I mean the risk they could have taken. I mean I'm being. What they could have done. I mean, I have no right to say that because this is what they have done is really cool. But like what they could have done is like she's kind of okay with it, she's kind of not, and then that conflict like continues to color the rest of the film somehow.
That's
it
one way they
continues
do
to
it.
develop. Like
Sure.
like imagine
Yeah,
how
like the
interest-
first movie, everything
Yeah.
reached a conclusion by the end,
Yeah,
or
like
when they reunited.
Imagine how more interesting the fight scenes would be in the final moments if Violet actually had still had issues with Mr. Incredible as a father.
Right.
Instead, she's this "you're awesome, go stop the boat, we're cool."
Well, they could also go the Uncle Drew route and have a beef that goes on and it's not
Have a beef that gets resolved, and then he fucking has a heart attack.
That's the same character. That is what happened.
That is that's what's happening
Yeah.
with Uncle Drew.
Yeah.
Sorry we're spoiling it, but
Don't
don't watch this.
I
film,
don't
it's
care.
horrible. We don't care.
Yeah. But okay,
yeah.
that's. I mean, I can see that on paper how that works. But I think there's one thing very early on that made me really, really pissed.
Yeah.
The fact that he does not think that his wife could do better at him than at superheroing.
Yes, that annoyed me as well.
Uh-huh.
But I saw that why he thought that.
I have a
because-
justification too.
I have a justification. I agree that was not as strong because that just shows him as kind of dumb.
Also, in the last film,
And
they
he's not
literally
really
saved
dumb.
him.
He's not really dumb.
Uh-huh.
He's just sort of blindsided by his own headstrongness.
Yeah.
And that I feel like it didn't have any subtlety.
Yeah, it seems so It just didn't
It's-
seem. Yeah.
It seemed too easy.
Yeah, it seemed too easy.
It's too
and-
much too easy of a choice to
Uh-huh.
make. Yeah.
Exactly. And my justification was, this is the 60s. Because the film's actually set in the 60s.
Yeah.
But I don't even think that's that strong. That's not an excuse for them to go such an easy
this
route.
Is set in the 60s though. It's set,
I thought the
it's the technology is very obviously
But apparently the first film was the 60s and 70s.
it's inspired. Well, it's
because
the gold. I think I think it's implied that the golden age.
Okay.
Is there are I think ways that they tell this, but I think the golden age is the 60s, and then it's set maybe in the 70s or 80s.
Okay.
So there still would be sexism, but it's not as sexist as the 50s or 60s would
Okay.
be. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, that one conversation where hey, you can do better. Then where he literally has to stop himself from saying that.
That was over the top.
Yeah.
That was just yeah, we get it.
Mhm.
That scene would have played so much stronger if he was overjoyed, but then we understood that something was kind of wrong. That would have been so much
Right.
stronger.
If he played it up a little too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing where
instead of
making sure you understand.
yeah,
Making
you're
sure
right.
you
That's
understand.
exactly
telling
what it
you
is.
this, telling you as an audience. It's not treating you as an intelligent audience
Uh-huh.
member to figure it out for yourself.
Uh-huh.
Because it's if he just overjoyed, it's oh, this doesn't make sense. I don't like this movie. It doesn't make sense. Blah blah blah. Bad reading. That's what they're afraid of.
Right.
You don't have reason to be afraid. People are smart.
Exactly. I think I got all my points across.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
yeah.
I enjoyed watching this film, but I just wish that Pixar was not the big budget corporation that they are now. Because
just as an experiment and an exercise, you know what I'm interested in watching? Finding Dory.
me too. I'm probably gonna have similar feelings about Finding Dory.
Right.
But
I will rewatch the original before Finding Dory.
okay, because Finding Nemo is very good.
Oh,
Finding Nemo is incredible.
yeah.
It's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
it is very well deserving of all the praise it got.
Yeah.
To the point where it became oversaturated in culture with when I was that age, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Oh. I just remember Crush the Turtle and his whole guru philosophy, and thinking back on him wow, that's just something that I can't imagine a kids film doing, but it's just, yeah.
There's so many wonderful everything in that film. It's basically an Odyssey film where everything
Right.
they run into is just a quirky Pixar thing.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's also, it does push against your cliches.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
I don't. Again, my memory of it is
I don't
so
even want to
vague,
tell you
I don't-
about it because they're wonderful to discover for yourself.
Yeah, I don't remember
but,
too much. I remember
Yeah.
the fish tank.
Uh-huh.
I remember the turtle, but I don't remember the nuances.
Do you
at
remember
all.
the sharks?
I do remember the sharks.
I love that trope that they deny.
I know about the trope they deny, but I don't think I remember the full picture.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's like
great.
that moment whenever you watch The
It's great.
Incredibles,
Yeah.
where everything just is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they deny a trope by putting in another trope, and it's ingenious.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it becomes something that's really unique as a result.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything else to say about this film? You know what I thought?
What?
I was at the end when everything was coming together. I was like, is there more? And then there wasn't. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, no, because at the end, you know, the final action scene ends, and then there's like the end where everyone's cheering, and the law just comes back. It implies like, oh, the law just comes back. It's like, oh no, yeah, we're gonna surely make superheroes equal now, even though, from a certain perspective, you can argue that the superheroes made things worse.
You know how they're probably
Just
going
like
to
the
start the
Underminer.
third film?
How?
A bunch of people are like, wait a minute, you caused a shit ton of destruction. Put the law back.
Right,
and then they have to do the whole thing
That's
again.
exactly what I'm worried about. They're gonna make infinite
Oh
sequels.
my god. Like, they'll just keep doing the
And
same
if they're
thing over and over.
inventive enough, if they're just inventive enough to make most audiences like kind of see past that,
Yeah.
they can do as much as they want.
Yeah.
They're completely episodic, like in the sitcom way where everything's the same thing. But actually, yeah, when everyone's cheering, it actually reminded me of like your cliche action film, like a Die Hard, which I think is still a little cliche. I think Die Hard's overrated. Where like there's like in the end where all the cops' cars are gathered and everyone's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And then there's the embrace with the parents. That's
Yeah.
totally one of those moments where the tone is just right there, like at the end of The Burbs,
Yeah.
where like everyone's like, "Oh yeah, oh wife and husband, oh
Yeah.
And the first movie didn't have that. Yeah, not exactly.
Well, the
at
first
least.
movie, the way it resolved
With like the track meet and like
Yeah.
them working together as a family.
they still had issues that they were resolving.
Right.
That
And then the
still felt
Underminer
like,
appears.
Yeah, like with Dash, like having to like compete in sports.
Right.
That's a really interesting conflict that is not 100% resolved.
But at
Like
the end
it's
they
like
kinda-
like it's still kind of absurd that Dash would be competing in sports competitions because
Come
he
on,
is who
close
he
second.
is.
Close second.
Like
Yeah,
close
yeah.
second, close
Yeah,
second,
yeah,
close second.
yeah, yeah.
Like there's still that really interesting like tension there. There's none of that in the end of
Right.
this.
But-
It's just like superheroes win. Yay,
And
movie over.
Once again, it's about them coming to terms with their strengths.
Yeah.
In the first one, and the second one, I don't know. They kind of want to hold each other back again.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Again,
feel like
that's
they're
the
holding back.
biggest
So like,
overall-
like if we resolve stuff, we can't do number 3 if we
Right.
want to. Like, I hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't care in the first one about a number 2,
Exactly.
but now they care because it's a money thing.
Right. Yeah.
Ugh. Man. Okay, are we done?
We're done. Long talk.
Long talk, but a good one.
Minus the short, we probably have it around an hour.
Yeah.
All right. Have a nice
okay,
day.
that's it. Have an incredible
Fun.
day.
I'll make a Jurassic World solo video soon, so stay tuned for that. Bye.